a setting where people ask me questions. Say, "Oh, you're Christian? You're from Christian?" I say, "No, no, I'm Muslim." That's the end. That's the extent of my Islam. But I didn't really have any principles, things that were. There was nothing that I was really doing. Not even like talking to God, making prayer. I didn't have like this. I was really growing up like a non-Muslim kid. Think about it. That's if you ask him, he knows. Oh, I'm Muslim, but that's it. But still in my heart, I still decided to go with it. And that's when I would say that I really became Muslim, because it's a choice. Despite my dad was Muslim, despite the setting, it doesn't matter. I know that at this moment in my heart, I had a choice. I'm really fascinated by someone that really come from outside and come within. To me, they are even more blessed because Allah really chose them and say, you gonna become a Muslim and you're gonna be part of this. You know what I mean? It's beautiful. To me, they're chosen more than people that were born in Islam. I believe that people have a tremendous need to feel a connection with a higher power. They don't know it, but this. I believe this is the way we've been designed. This is our fitra, which means our nature. This is being preached to them. It's not like normal. People think it's normal to be non-religious. It's not a normal thing. It's never been a normal thing throughout the history of man. We always believe in a higher power. If you're interested to Islam, you mean like you feel something in your heart. It all starts there. You know what I mean? That's the heart is the center of our emotions. We often say that the iman is in the heart, the faith is in the heart. So there's the heart, which is the physical heart, and there's the spiritual heart. So something's happening in you. There's a connection being created between you and God. Islam would change a life completely, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be like a physical change, or change everything that you do in your life. No, I think it's going to improve everything. And to live a meaningful life, because a purposeful life is a life full of meaning. And that's what we search for. Islam to me is freedom.
Welcome to the Becoming Muslim podcast at ontoislam.com. Today we have a special guest. His name is Cedric Peloux. His age is 38 and he converted in 1990. That was 30 years ago. He's from France and he was born in Paris. His mother is French native Caucasian and his father is a French West Indies from Guadeloupe. He currently lives in Melbourne and he's been there since 2012. He works in IT as an application operation engineer. He says that Iman, belief in Islam, entered into his heart when he was about 8 years old. And his decision to follow the path to Islam and accept it happened around the age of 14. He's a huge basketball fan and he's into spiritual readings, especially things about tasawwuf, tazkiyah, and hagiographies. And he's also into different readings about history and the state of the Muslim world. So Cedric, welcome to the show.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thanks for the introduction. That was great.
Excellent. So there's a lot there in your introduction there. The thing that was interesting to me that belief in Islam and Allah entered into your heart at the age of 8, only 8 years old. So I'd like to talk about that. And then also you mentioned that you decided to follow the path of Islam at around the age of 14. So can you give us a little bit of background about what life was like at the age of 8 and 14?
Yeah. So just to give you the kind of the full story. So my dad reverted to Islam when he was young. So, but I never lived with my dad at this point. So I always lived with my mom, and my mom, she's not religious. They practically separated because of that, I think. When my dad started to become Muslim, like my mom probably didn't like it. And I was still a baby, So I always lived with my mom. and used to see my dad, once in a while. So I really didn't grow up with any religion or any specific, understanding of anything. Didn't have any belief. My mom didn't really. She was not even maybe like Christian culturally, but she didn't have any belief really. So what happened is just like when I was 8 years old. So my dad had like he went really full on with Islam, which means like when he started when he converted, he decided to after like starting learning about religion, he started like to preaching in the street, just like in the old days and calling people to Islam. And from one thing to another, he moved to another French island called Réunion Island, and he went there to just spread the deen. So he became like pretty much like a dai. And when I was 8 years old, like my mom decided to send me on holiday, just like any kids, with their other parents when they separated. And so I spent like 4 months with my dad in Reunion Island. And that's the first time that I was seeing him doing all these things. And that iman entered my heart without really understanding it, but it was just there, just like it's evidence, So I remember I've learned the Fatiha, the Surah of Al-Fatiha, and which is the first verse of the Quran, and I was praying as well without really understanding anything. And then I went back to my mom after these few months. So of course I've lost everything. I was not praying. I was back to eating pork because Muslim we don't eat pork normally, but eating pork like everything. But the two things that stayed, it's I never lost Al-Fatiha at this point, and I knew I was Muslim. I know that in my heart I'm Muslim. I don't even know what exactly it is, but I know that's what I am. And that's why I said that Iman entered my heart at 8 years old and never left. But I was not really a Muslim because I considered being a Muslim like a choice, a decision, to really follow the path. And you need to know like the basics of Islam and accept them, just like the way it's been designed to properly say that you're Muslim.
At the age of 8, that's, very young. And
Yep.
I remember when I was very young as well, I was in my mother's homeland in Indonesia, and I heard the call to prayer over the loudspeaker, going out.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I was saying to my father, who was not a Muslim at the time, I said, "What is this beautiful, what is this thing that they're doing?" And then my dad said, "Oh yeah, they're calling people to prayer." And so can you go back and think about, again, when you're at the age of 8, do you have any of those beautiful memories of any of the Islamic things that you were doing? Can you describe them to us with your father?
I would say like it's really was all related to my father because my father was my hero. So it was you have to understand my dad was like a really big man, really muscly. He was like champions of France of bodybuilding in the 80s. So he was really like kind of a big man. And he has really his own style. He has long dreadlocks, used to dress his own way. So you have a lot of people like going around him. And I was like little kid there when he was giving dars and lectures about Islam. So it's not like something that I discover being outside. It's just like being with all these people from within, and it's just like this feeling of that's how it is. So I couldn't really say like, oh, I've heard this thing or discovered that, but just like it's just like it felt logical.
Could you remember praying with your father, or learning the times where you were learning the Fatiha?
I remember that it's not even him that taught me the Fatiha at the time. I remember I was outside and one of his students came to me, was talking to me, playing with me, and then while playing, teaching me Al-Fatiha. And that's how I learned it. You know what I mean? So it was like all kind of, it was fun. You know what I mean? There was nothing, nothing restrictive about it. Like, I don't know, because some people could have a different experience, but that was all fun. So that probably helped, like the face entering the heart and having kind of, love and feeling like that's, I'm at home there, in this thing, without really understanding exactly what it is, but just like feeling a sense of community. This helps as well. It was not just there were always like many people, around my dad. So yeah, it felt like an extended family, and that really helped to make me feel like, as I said, that it was the logical thing to do.
Yeah, that's really great. Those early memories of your first interactions with Islam will stay with you forever. So what happened then? You
Yeah.
were saying that you went back to your mother, and then you sort of
Yeah.
lost all of those
Yeah.
ways from
Yeah.
that interaction with your father.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So, I still used to see my dad here and there, but like Islam is not something that's like the faith is something you have to work on. We know as Muslim that it's not, you cannot just stay and not doing anything and thinking that you're going to stay at this level, because the whole world is pushing in one direction. So as Muslim, as people of faith, we need to make sure that we always go forward, because other than this, we're going to go backward. Especially when you're really pretty young in your Iman in Islam. And 8 years old, it's very, very young. So of course, if you don't practice anything, you're gonna forget everything that you know pretty much. So that's pretty much what happened. Especially that I was in a non-Muslim context with my mom, and yeah, I was starting to live again like any kid at this age with no religion. But I knew that every time I was in a situation where, because like France, they have a lot of Muslim in France, and mainly people from the Arabic background, Algerian, Tunisian, Moroccan, and some also from Black Africa, West Africa. Anytime I was having a discussion, I was saying, yeah, I'm Muslim. I actually remember something which was later in my journey. Like, so my mom moved. She got married. She moved into the south of France in a city called Nimes. And I remember that I was like in some kind of how would you describe it? It was a bit the hood, a bit the project. Not that bad, but that's what it was. And I remember I was hanging around these Arabic guys, these Arabic youth and stuff. And they know that I'm not Arab. They know that I'm coming from this island, and people coming from this island in general, they're Christian. They're not Muslim, so it's really rare. And I remember having this discussion with this person, and he's saying like, "So what you are, stuff, you're Christian?" And I say, "No, I'm Muslim." And he's looking at me like, "What are you talking about, man? You're not Muslim." He said, "Okay, prove it to me. Recite the Fatiha." He tried to test me, and I actually recite the Fatiha for him. And by the end, he was crying. You know what I mean? Because he didn't expect it. And so that's something that really marked me. I mean, like, even if those people, they were not even practicing, and not just hearing another person that is Muslim that they didn't expect touches their heart. So it's something really beautiful. But to move on, what happened is just like I started to grow up, and it was kind of difficult for my mom to deal with me, because I was a lot of energy, really creative, and I just wanted to do whatever I wanted to do. And you always need two parents at the end of the day. It's difficult for a single mom, especially if you have like a kid that is really moving, really strong, and all these things. So I remember having an argument with my mom. She said, "Yeah, if you keep doing these things, I'm going to send you to your dad." And me being exactly like my mom, which is hard-headed, I said, "Send me to my dad. I don't care." And actually, she did it seriously. I thought that she was joking, And she actually called my dad and said, "Look, I have this problem with Cedric. Like, I want to send him to you now. I've done enough. Now it's your turn to help and stuff." So she actually put the whole thing in place, and I moved to Reunion Island. So that's what happened. Like, since the moment I came back till the moment I went
So
back.
what was your age then when you moved?
I think, from memory, I think it's probably 13, 14, around this age, like beginning of teenagers years.
And what's
Yeah.
the setting like there? Are they mainly Muslims in that country?
So you have Muslims in this country. It's a very interesting setting in this case, because Muslim in Reunion Island are the people who have the businesses. You know what I mean? But they're mostly from subcontinents, Indian, Pakistanis. You have a lot of Chinese, and you have a lot of native people from the island, the Creole, which are like, mixed but black, and you have also like white native from. You have white from France, white people from France, and white people that are that have been living there for generations. So it's an interesting melting pot. And Chinese, of course, big Chinese immigration. So I remember that my dad, what he was doing, because I think the community there, and I'm saying this with looking at it back, but the community, this subcontinental community, they were just kind of between themselves. You know what I mean? More doing their own thing. And my dad was different in this case, that he said we should focus on the youth of this country, the Creole, and just spread Islam to them, because they're the one who need it the most, because they lost. Some are, on drugs and being in the streets. So, and my dad was, working out, and through this bodybuilding thing, this workout thing, he just like brought a lot of youth to him, because they were really interested, they were mesmerized. And so it was, teaching them like, how to work out on your body and do all these things. And through this, he was teaching them like Islam, spirituality. And then they start coming to him, becoming a student. And then he was, he created like some kind of company of gardening, and give them like, some kind of job, so they have something to do. And that was pretty much what he was doing. So that was the setting. And I was in the middle of all this, part of this student actually. And starting to learn. So what I was explaining when I was saying like I had to make a choice, it's really simple. It's because it didn't make it easy for me. Like it was really difficult. The setting was not easy in itself, because so his wife, he has 2 other kids, and she was not really that nice with me. You know what I mean? You could have felt like anybody would have felt rejected and stuff. So some people could have like the opposite reaction, say, because some people they work logically, and some people they work more emotionally. So if they feel something emotionally and they're not happy, they're going to reject everything. Doesn't matter if it makes sense. It's just because of the emotional. So alhamdulillah, I was more logical and emotional person. So despite going through difficult thing, I still thought that whatever it is, it's the truth. So I have to keep doing what I do and keep learning, and despite the situation there. So I made a decision that whatever I feel, that's one thing, but I should separate it from the pursuit of the truth, which makes sense to me. As I was saying, it's just like in this situation, I think in my mind, I could have completely rebelled, because I was this kind of character, just do whatever I want. I could have said, no, I refuse. I'm not going to do anything. I don't want to follow Islam. I refuse to submit to this. So some kid could have reacted like this, because they would feel like it's unfair. She was treating me like kind of really unfairly, would have said. And that would put my dad in a difficult spot, because he would like really vouch for me. That would have been a huge problem. And he couldn't it was very complicated. And I understood this, of course, when I grew up, because you don't know about relationship and all this kind of thing and how it can be. But so yeah, sometimes it was a bit harsh. I remember waking me up at 4 a.m, doing like zikr, which is recitation of God's name for hours. Like in the evening, I was with a student just praying, reading, praying for hours as well, while my brother and sister, they're just watching TV, eating, having fun, So you really feel that at odd. You feel like you're really you're not really part of this family, and you're not really wanted there, So that's why I'm saying but despite all of this, I still decided to, to keep going forward and keep learning and keep doing whatever my dad was asking me to do, without rebelling against it. Of course, I was like any kids, you have misdeeds, you do things, but still, I was following through with it.
Okay, and when you first moved to Reunion Island to live with your father, did you have Islam in your mind at the time? Because you knew that your father was Muslim. Were you thinking about becoming Muslim as you migrated?
It was in the back of my mind, because I think actually I was happy in my heart. I'm saying like, okay, that's the great occasion to see what it is. You know what I mean? Because like I still had this feeling of it's evident, it's logical, it's you know, but I couldn't really go through with it because I didn't practice anything. I didn't really know somebody that was practicing or giving me really the way. So I said, okay, it's a great way. Like I'm gonna go back to my dad. My dad like teaches Islam to people. It's gonna be the great way to to really follow the way and see like what it is for from the best source to my opinion. So I was happy in my mind. I was happy. I thought, and I think deep inside of me, I thought that I needed discipline as well. Because I was at this age where you're rebel and you just want to do whatever you want to do, and I knew that deep down inside, I couldn't do something like this with my dad. So I thought like deep inside of me, maybe I needed discipline as well. I needed like a direction. I needed to have like to be like like in a position where I couldn't do everything that I wanted, and whatever direction I was being given was to really further my moral strength, spiritual strength, all these things. So I just had this feeling. So I was kind of happy about it. So that's why I didn't even fight my mom when she said send me to my dad. I said okay, send me to my dad, no problem. Not realizing that it's just like you're gonna move to another island, you're gonna change all your life, like no friend, no problem. So yeah, and I thought that was all related to the fact that I felt that it's something good for me.
Okay, and you mentioned that when you were living in France with your mother that you weren't practicing Islam, but did you ever feel any connections with God? Were you doing things to try and communicate with God? Were you making prayers or anything like that?
Not even. Really, really nothing. The only connection I would have is, when I was meeting those people that are Muslim, most of them, from Arabic background. And, they're going to say, inshallah, they're going to say this kind of thing. And you feel like, you're part of this. But that's it. In terms of my practice, there was nothing. I just knew the Fatiha. I know that I'm Muslim in a setting where, people ask me questions, say, oh, you're Christian, you're Praron Christian. I say, no, I'm Muslim. That's the end, that's the extent of my Islam. But I didn't really have any principal things there was nothing that I was really doing, not even like talking to God, making prayer. I didn't have like this. I was really growing up like a non-Muslim kid. Think about it. That's, if you ask him, he knows, oh, I'm Muslim, but that's it. That was really the extent of it.
Okay. And then so you mentioned that you converted around the age of 14, or that's when you accepted the path of Islam and accepted it fully.
Yeah.
So tell me more about that.
Yeah, so as I was saying, when I went to Reunion Island, like things went progressively. I came with my like a mentality. I remember like when I was like in the car when my dad picked me up from the airport, I was making me listen to rap music. I'm saying, oh, I love this. I'm really into this. And my dad at this point, was not like really saying anything, of course, because I'm fresh. I just arrived. And I didn't do much, so I didn't have any understanding of the relationship, the respect, what I should do, and all these things. But anyway, so I let it go. And I remember the very first day, I think we had the prayer time, and I said, okay, let's go, let's pray together. And I said, okay. So there, I didn't remember everything. And while they're praying, I remember I was doing like the wave. When you dance, I was doing the wave. That I completely forgot like what it is to pray, like you need to focus and all these things. I was just like standing up, but doing my own thing, and that was funny to think about it. That's how far I was, in terms of really understanding the deen. And little by little, like my dad started to teach me and telling me you need to do this and that, until those moments when I explained to you, I felt like it was getting a bit difficult because of the situation, the settings, the family settings. But still in my heart, I still decided to go with it. And that's when I would say that I really became Muslim, because it's a choice. Despite my dad was Muslim, despite the setting, it doesn't matter. I know that at this moment in my heart, I had a choice, because emotionally I was not feeling that well, and I could have definitely rejected things. But something in my mind was saying, it doesn't matter what you feel. This is a different thing that the reality of what you do. You know what I mean? Don't mix them together. This is the truth, and you need to follow through with it. And I make the decision to listen to this voice in my heart and to keep going. You know what I mean? So that's why I would say like that's the moment where I really became Muslim, because I embraced it with more knowledge of what it was, instead of just following because somebody is doing it or because just is my dad. Yeah.
Did you ever start to rebel against your father? You know, he was asking, you know, let's pray, and maybe he was trying to teach you some things. Or was it an easy?
Let's say that my dad is not something that's you could really rebel with. It's really difficult. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, he's a guy that is like 3 times your weight, respected by everybody. You know, you're not gonna tell him anything. It's really like even normal adults fear him. So as a kid, no, he definitely not gonna rebel to him. Like, sometimes I was not happy with things, and I was saying it, but like within the respect of things. But at the same time, I think it helped that I still had this admiration for him, because it's definitely, it was somewhat special. Most people would just go about their life, and then you have like this person that like was like starting to have like some kind of celebrity lifestyle, was known, was in the sport, then he went to music, because I didn't talk about this, but anyway, starting having this lifestyle and left everything to become a dai. That's the kind of person he was. And he starts to take this thing in the next level. And he has this thing that's made people want to be around him, and listen to him and to do this thing. So I always have this admiration. And even to this day, my dad is still my hero, because the more I advance in life, the more I grow up, the more I realize that what he did is actually very hard. It's not that, I used to take it kind of for granted, like, yeah, these people, what people do. But no, it's not many people that do. Even people who convert to Islam, like to decide to, okay, I'm going to call people to Allah now, and I'm going to bring them, and I'm going to take all this step. That's really a sign of somebody with a strong faith and strong concern. And I don't know, it's a pretty big deal. So I think the fact that I had this vision of him helped me still, like, even if I was not happy with something, still push through. And so, like, okay, that's for my good at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And I think that was like the right thing to do, because yeah, it really helped me at the end of the day, give me something that was really precious. So at 15 years old, my dad was making me read Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, which is someone really like famous in Islam, in the science of Sufism, and also religion. It's not both together, but it's not the kind of reading that you read when you're 15 years old. You know what I mean? So it gave me like really like a really vast overview of the deen at a very young age. Like, when most people, they don't have this, go through the basics and stuff. So that was really interesting. And I thought I was gaining something. So to answer your question, I didn't really rebel, even if I was doing things, just like any kids, but I didn't really rebel and say, no, I'm not going to do this and leave. So yeah.
Okay, great. And also, can you go back when around that time and try and remember the exact moment when you felt in your heart that you were a Muslim and you were doing this correct thing?
I think it would be hard to pinpoint the time, but I think it's just like a transition that went smoothly. You know what I mean? From the moment when you learn and you're happy to learn about it, from the moment you start understanding, realize, because he was giving me like books to read all the time, and I was sitting with him, listening to his lesson, talking to his students. I was always in it, So it's something that really came organically with you learning, with you starting to pray, because I guess like all these things comes together. You have to feed your faith, you have to feed your iman. So when you come to a point where you're absolutely not praying and not practicing anything, to starting to practice things, starting to pray, starting to, you don't eat whatever you want. You just like trying to follow all the like what you should do as a Muslim, what you shouldn't do. This lights that come within your life, and this light, I believe, shine upon your face, and your face grow Just like, somebody putting water on the ground to get a plant to grow. It's the same thing. So I wouldn't say there's one moment. It just like went really organically, but really quick and strongly, because I think the ground was ready. The fact that I was happy to learn from the very beginning helped. And then I started doing all these things. And because I did it was like really, as I said to you, like, was it pretty heavy? Like my dad used to wake me up really early to do like a lot of, prayer, meditation. It's not really the normal setting of somebody just come to Islam. It's just like a Islamic training camp. That's how it felt, if I can put it in words. That's exactly the way. So, it's just like you take a military person that doesn't know really anything and you put him like through a huge training camp. You cannot say, okay, when do you think you become a soldier? It's just like there's so much going on that you didn't even realize that he was already going through all these things. So yeah, I couldn't really pinpoint a moment in itself, but yeah, it was like an organic process, I would say.
Yeah. That's you're very blessed to be able to have that opportunity at a young age. A lot of our listeners out there are trying to convert, when they're older, in their 40s or 50s.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
They've got a lot of things to change. But for you did it while you were early, at the age of 13, 14. So, that's a huge blessing for you.
It is. I always realized this. I'm always like really grateful of what God decided for me, designed and decided for me, in terms of life path. Because yeah, that's like at the time there's many things I felt was really difficult, including the settings that I was talking to you about. But I realized with later on in life, like in my 20s and talking with other Muslims that grew up as Muslim and even were practicing, not only just grew up, but practicing, that there was some reality. I was speaking to them, they didn't understand. They didn't even go through this. And to me, it was normal, and then I realized that like what I've been given is something that's not many people find, So yeah, I was really lucky and blessed. And I know it's not everybody has the same path, if I could say. So that's why I consider myself like half a revert, pretty much. I consider myself a revert because I didn't grow up in a Muslim environment, and I definitely made a choice of it. But at the same time, it's not like I would say like I had no connection whatsoever with it, and I find it in the words somebody told or through, like many people that revert to Islam, they heard the Adhan or they opened the Quran one day. It's not exactly this experience. So I'm sitting in the middle. That's how I would describe myself.
Yeah.
But
so your story is similar to mine. So we come from families where one of our parents was a Muslim, grew up as a Muslim. So we saw them, we saw them worshipping. So for us, it's a lot easier to transition into Islam compared to someone who both their parents were not Muslim and they're trying to convert to Islam.
Yes.
So we're a small subset of the converts, but
yes, exactly.
we're an important part as well. And there's a lot of us out there. And also there's the ones that grew up as Muslim, and then they left Islam, they stopped practicing, now they're trying to come back. So they're sort of in the same situation as us.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. You put it in the right term. We're a small subset of the revert, so I like this very well. Sometimes, I really feel like I think like what we really call full convert. I feel that's beautiful. I would really love to be in this position, but everybody has like his own way. But I'm really fascinated by someone that really come from outside and come within. To me, they are even more blessed because Allah really chose them and say, you gonna become a Muslim and you're gonna be part of this. You know what I mean? It's beautiful. To me, they're chosen more than people that were born in Islam. To me, like the revert are the future of Islam, because there's the need to have like fresh blood, if I can put it this way. But so for example, in my position, what I find like really amazing is just like, I know I'm a Westerner. I was born in France. French is my culture. France is a Western country, and whatever I've learned about Islam on spiritual basic level or whatever it is, my culture never changed, So it's really easy for me to connect with non-Muslim people, Westerner, because I completely understand the frame of mind. Because I'm still a Westerner at the end of the day. Nothing they say to me is going to shock me, and nothing. Everything is thought. You know what I mean? I think about everything. So that's why I think like I'm really in a great position to talk to non-Muslim because I understand their questioning, but I also understand why they're questioning. Why this question? Because I understand the context of atheism, living in a non-Muslim country, the stereotype you can have about Muslim, because I could see it myself. So yeah, it's a blessing in disguise, definitely, to me. Because at the time I was not really realizing all this, but now I say, okay, that's beautiful, and that's probably why I had to follow this path to then pass it on to others, just like my dad did at a smaller level, though.
Okay, and you mentioned also earlier when you were sending me some messages that you're passionate about giving dawah and calling people to Islam, and you like to talk with people who are thinking about converting to Islam.
Yeah.
So what sort of work do you do in that?
So I think it depends. At some points, like, there was some people that were doing like really practical dawah. They was sitting at a place and I was just staying with them. And any group, pretty much, that I would say, sing dawah, and will, if I can, I stop and just try to help them. Because I think it's a beautiful thing, not an easy thing to do. And that's really the dawah with a big D, which is spreading the message of Islam to people who haven't heard it or maybe needs to have their idea corrected about it. Because there's a lot of stereotype, of course, from the media. So that would be one thing. But then I realized that there's other way to do this as well, because I evolve in a context when there's a lot of non-Muslim. I live in Australia, majority is non-Muslim, and actually the Muslim is really a tiny minority, even compared to France, because France is way more Muslim, but here it's like really more minority. So there's many opportunity all around me. Like, you don't even always need to just have a stand and just start starting to go to people. Have you heard about Allah? Which is one way. But another way is just like all the people you connect in day to day. And to me, it's just like fishing. You know what I mean? You just like throw things here and you see who is interested in the bait. And then if somebody's interested, then you start to open something else and you see if they follow through. And then you start talking about what it is. I believe some people, their heart is becoming ready, and that's what they're searching for. I believe that's all the Western country, when atheism, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, secularity is, the rule. I believe that people have a tremendous need to feel a connection with a higher power. They don't know it, but this. I believe this is the way we've been designed. This is our fitra, which means our nature, what we came with originally. And when you remove this from people at a state level, you leave them with a deep, void, and they want to feel it. And that's why we do all these things like, drugs and go here and there, because you have this void that we try to feel. So I believe any person has this need in this life. Despite the way they're trying to act, like, I have all my things together. I think many people, they have this need. They know that's, cannot really explain, but there's this reality above them, you know what I mean? And this reality of life. And so when I just simply talk to people. Basketball is one way. At the moment, I have like one person that I play basketball with. And I remember we were on the court one day and he was talking to me about politics. And politics is a great way to me, it's a great getaway to start talking about things, because I can connect, what's happening in the world with other like spiritual truths. And I started this with this person, and I tell him, I try, I say like, because God, I put the word God just to see how they're gonna react. And when I feel like they're not really, reacting negatively, I'm saying like there's something, and that's exactly what happened. I had like many discussion, and one day I received a text, from this person that's not even religious, or we didn't really talk too much about religion and spirituality, but I just like mentioned a few things about what I think, why the world is working this way. And he sent me a text one day and say, "Hi, Cedric, I just wanted to let you know that I've really been thinking about God lately, and I think that I really want to understand things more, but I feel there's something that I need to do, and it was the start of, us getting to another level. And since then we'll be meeting like regularly, and he's asking many questions about Islam. I know that in his heart is kind of ready, but it's, everybody has a journey, and he needs to feel completely, like ready to go through. But I love it. I love this position. There's nothing better to do in life than to give something that has been given to me before. So I'm sorry, I'm giving you really long answers, but that's exactly how I feel, and that's what I do day to day. If I meet any person that is non-Muslim, if I have an occasion, I'm just going to throw one thing here and there to see how they react. Because some people, they really they really don't like it. They don't want to hear about it or anything. But if they're like, well, I'll throw a few things, just let them know. Look, if you're interested in this kind of thing, maybe I can teach you one thing or two. Or maybe I can bring something into your life that you don't know you might need. And if they react, great. If they don't, it's Allah decides, Allah guides whoever He will, and maybe it's going to be later in their life. Who knows? So yeah, that's what I do at the moment.
Cool, excellent. So when you're talking to these people about Islam and calling them to Islam, what are some of the questions and the topics that regularly come up?
It often go into the stereotypes, which makes a lot of sense, because I also remember there was this girl that I just want to share this one as well because I find it beautiful. There was this girl that used to come play basketball with us. She came from France. She was just like on holidays. Many people from France that come here on holidays, they are kind of backpackers, which means they just come here just to enjoy, party, doing all these things. So it's not the best setting, I would say, to maybe be open to these things. And I remember, I didn't really got along with this girl at the beginning. And then one day we started having a discussion about politics and same thing. I started explaining her some stuff, and we were talking about bank. And I was saying to her, what's amazing? I'm Muslim, and in our religion, interest is one of the worst thing. And I was explaining to her why. And I said, our religion came 1,500 years ago to make it completely forbidden because the system is a problem, And I was explaining her how interest has taken over the world and how bad the situation is, And I saw she was really surprised, and I caught her out of guard. And then I started explaining a second thing about another thing that we see today. I don't remember what I was saying, and I felt like she was really there's something was happening. I could see in her eyes, And every time I got a chance, I was talking to her about these things, and I think, and I come to a point when she was really interested, and she said, okay, so how do you, what do you do? And I wanted to take it easy with her. I said, what I would advise you to do before doing anything, just talk to God. You know what I mean? And before you go to sleep, talk to Him. Whatever problem, whatever thing you want, just talk to Him. Ask Him for guidance. Ask Him to guide you in the right path and to do the right thing and to make things easier for you. And I remember she came back to me and she said, one day she said, look, I never said this to you, but since I came to Australia, there was some kind of darkness in my heart. People didn't know. I'm always laughing and acting out and doing all these things. But in my heart, I was really depressed, and even I was doing a lot of nightmares and stuff. And I did what you asked me to do. And at the moment when I started to accept this is my heart, this thing went away directly. I never felt so good in years. That's what she told me, She's amazing. And she definitely, she accepted Islam, and she went back to France. And a young girl, 20 years old, you know what I mean? It's pretty interesting. You come to this country just to party and stuff like this, and you come back with Islam in your heart. That's amazing. So I didn't really definitely answer your question, but I would say when I talk with people in general, it's more about the stereotype. But we're in Australia, and people are not really. I find that people are not that straightforward here. They're not really direct. It's all about, I don't want to offend. I don't want to say all these things. So people won't say exactly what they think directly. So in general, I'm the one who directly, if I find there's a connection, I'm just trying to explain things and also talk about the stereotype and reply to it at the same time. So if there's any question, it's more like if I can refer to my friend, it's more like about why we practice this thing, and trying to make sense of the whole thing, pretty much. My friend, for example, has more like a Christian education, so it's trying to ask me questions in Christianity frame of mind. So I'm trying to explain to him, okay, what we really have in common, which is like a lot, and the only few differences that we have, just to make things more clear.
And so in Australia and also in the West, what do you think is the main thing that is stopping people from converting to Islam?
Oh, I would say the media. That's for sure, 100%. The media, number one. Number two, the Muslims. I believe like there is like of course, like any Muslim can realize that the media, they love to use Islam as a scapegoat and just to steer attention and divide people. And France is the king of country for this. They do it everywhere, but France is on another level. I had like the best like training in terms of this. Like every year in France, they come up with a new thing about Islam. The burqa, the niqab, which is like the complete veil, or the hijab in school. They take a new subject every year, and it gets all the society to polarize on it. And it's amazing because, for example, right now we had at a time where there is like real problem in France. Like you have the yellow vest. I don't know if you heard about it. It's people, like millions of people like going the street because they're really not happy with, the way they're living, retirement, the money they're getting. So we have like real deep concerning issue. But the last thing that Macron thought about doing is saying, okay, we need to reform Islam. And every time it's the same thing because he knows that this kind of thing is going to polarize people, it's going to make people talk. And so they don't talk about the real issues. So media, they're just playing this game. America, they do this as well. It's all over the Western world. So I would say that's the first problem, misinformation, disinformation that the media are doing. So for people who don't really have a critical sense, sometimes it's a bit difficult for them to get open to religion or to understand things. And I think those society, not only Islam, but religion as a whole, they try to mock religion, to ridicule it, and just to replace it with their secular, materialistic kind of worldview. And people don't understand that this is being preached to them. It's not like normal. People think it's normal to be non-religious. It's not a normal thing. It's never been a normal thing throughout the history of man. We always believe in a higher power. So I would say that's the first issue. And I would put number two right behind the Muslims. I think we also are the cause of non-Muslim not being interested in Islam many times because of our behavior. We should be way better than we are. And I don't think we're doing the work, you know what I mean? We should be united, we're not. It's amazing to see that, I went to Japan and when I saw those people interacting with other people, the politeness, the quality they have in their interaction, cleanliness, all these things, I thought they're really applying the principle of Islam. That's how we should be. And if we would be like this, things would be so much easier to talk to people. But we're really deorganized, you know what I mean? We want to do whatever they want, we're really divided. And I know that's the devil playing part in this because, of course, he doesn't want, Islam to succeed. But we also have our responsibility, and I don't think we're doing as good as we should as a Muslim. We have a responsibility, and we're not all taking it. I came here in this country, it's and I've started, of course, to go to the mosque and make a lot of friends that were at the mosque. So from different, ethnicity, like the Pakistanis, Lebanese, whatever, and people that are religious that go at the mosque. So in my mind, because of course, Australia, I've been here for 7 years, but I didn't grow up here. So in my mind, most Muslims are religious and practicing, That's how it is. I come to the mosque, I see all these people, I see the way they are and stuff. And then some people talk to me and brought me aside and say, no, this is a minority. Most people, they don't practice. And then I start seeing that all those guys that absolutely don't care about the deen, they do whatever they want from this community. And I realized that, no, this is a minority. And then I can understand that, there's really a need for us to do better.
Okay, thanks for sharing that, Cedric. So we're coming towards the end of the episode now, and I want to ask you if anyone out there wants to get in contact with you, is there a way to do that?
Sure, sure. Whatever contact detail you want to give to anyone, you can give me my phone, my personal mobile. I can give it to you after the show. My email address, anything, pretty much. I'm really open and really happy for any person to contact me. That would be a pleasure.
Sure, yeah, there's probably some listeners out there that are, you know, sort of in tune with the way your outlook on life, and maybe they're a huge
Mm.
basketball fan too. They want to shoot some hoops with you. So I'll
Yeah,
put your contact details in the show notes, and then
yeah, sure.
hopefully if anyone's got questions, you can ask Cedric that way. As a conclusion, Cedric, can you just give your advice to anyone out there who's thinking about converting to Islam?
Definitely. I would say that the first thing is you like if you interested to Islam, you mean like you feel something in your heart. It's all starts there. You know what I mean? That's the heart is the center of our emotions, and we often say that the iman is in the heart, the faith is in the heart. So there's the heart, which is the heart, the physical heart, and there's the spiritual heart. So something's happening in you. There's a connection being created between you and God. So whatever you do, make sure that you keep this connection strong. And I would advise you to pray, whatever the way you want to do it at the beginning of your journey. But talk to God. God hear everything. He hear your thoughts. He hear when you speak. He hear when you don't speak. He's aware of everything. So talk to him and ask him as much as you can to guide you in the best way, to guide you in the most easiest way, and to just like shower you with blessings. So that would be the very first step and very advice that I would give. And second advice is just like if you have an occasion, talk to if you have anybody around you that you think that is Muslim, practicing his religion, talk to him. Ask questions. Don't be shy to ask anything. It's very important to ask whatever question. If you talk with a person which is sincere and love their religion, they actually would be happy to answer any question. Don't keep anything, because you think that maybe they might be offended. No, it's really better to be forward and say, okay, I would like to understand this about that. And don't hesitate to speak with different people and to try to see what different person can bring you. Also, you can definitely read books and read online, but you also have to be careful because sometimes there's people that write books, but they're actually against Islam, but they don't really say it openly. So you have to make sure that you know who you read. In general, I would advise like if you can find people around you that have some knowledge, to maybe ask them to direct you to a few books that you could read to help you if you're interested in reading. I'm talking because some people they like to read. That's the way they like to connect. So I would say, yeah, that would be our three first advice, and like to not be worried about anything because if you're sincere, you're gonna get to wherever you need to go because there is a destiny in Islam. We call it qadr, which means that God, Allah, has decreed things for you, and it's gonna go this way. You just need to make sure that you follow the way and you follow what you feel is the truth, not just the feeling, but the truth. So that would be my main advice to young people, young minds coming to Islam, because it doesn't matter your age, you're a young mind. If you come to Islam, you're gonna come fresh as a you know, young baby, which is beautiful because you're gonna learn something new and you're gonna be just like this baby. When somebody reverts to Islam, we say that anything that he has done, all his sins are being forgiven, which is an amazing thing. I wish I could be in this position. So you're gonna be like just like a new baby, a newborn, you know. So yeah, that's my advice.
Okay, and how is Islam going to change someone's life, and how are they going to benefit from it?
It's because, like I was saying before, it's just like when you have like in this world, the way the media are, portraying this life, the way what we see around us, we have like a horizontal connection with things. We connect to each other, we connect to things, material things. And it's a certain level of living, but this cannot bring happiness. There is like a vertical connection that we need to have, which with the Lord, the one who has created everything. You know what I mean? If there is a God and if he has created everything, he is also the one who has all the answers. if He's created us, He knows us better than we know each other, and He knows like what we're supposed to do and what we're not supposed to do. So He's the one that we need to listen to know like where we need to go. We all want peace of mind. We all want happiness. We want to all fulfillment. But I would say that only the person, not a real person, but only God would know, like how we can obtain these things. And He talked about it in the Quran. All these subjects are being explained at depth. So I think Islam would change a life completely, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be like a physical change, or change everything that you do in your life. No, I think it's going to improve everything. Not so much changing everything, unless you're really doing like wrong thing. But I believe most people are interested in Islam. They have this goodness about them. So more than changing, it's more like improving whatever you have, because your experience of life is already a wealth in itself. So Islam is going to give you a purpose, which is what more important, to have a purpose of life and to live a meaningful life, because a purposeful life is a life full of meaning. And that's what we search for. Islam to me is freedom. And that's really interesting, because that's something that some people that are really linked to the materialistic world don't understand. They actually think the opposite. They think that religion and Islam is a prison, because you have to do things, but not understanding that living your life with no principle and, like being left to your own device, you actually kind of a slave to your passion, slave to what you want, doesn't mean that it's good for you. Islam gives you a direction and tell you clearly, this is the way it is. Makes things easier for you. Just like you have, you have to find your way, and you've been given like a map, and you need to try to find, and you really struggle, to find a way. And then one moment you can see like arrows on the floor. You know the way to follow. It's just like help tremendously, you know what I mean? And you can really progress in life and set things in order. That's how it felt for me. You know what I mean? It's just like changes your life, man. There's no other way to put it. It's just like somebody not knowing mathematics and one day learns 1 + 1 = 2. Like your life changed. You can count. You understand, like, many things. That's the way I would put it, pretty much.
Excellent. Thanks, Cedric. I really enjoyed the episode. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks a lot for your invitation, and thanks for the work you do. May Allah bless your work and many podcasts to come.
I mean, yeah. And I believe that you've got a lot more to say out there for the converts. So hopefully you'll come on the show for another episode.
That would be my pleasure, man. I'm honored to be here, and I'm honored that you thought about me first place to talk. So thanks a lot again. Appreciate it.
Okay, Cedric. So inshallah, we'll catch up again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.